should get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
You know, something in graffiti's been kind of like, I don't want to say bothering me, but it's been eating at me recently, and I've been thinking a lot about it. And I'm gonna want you guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. You know, there's a small part of graffiti that I think is kind of like dying with technology, and just, you know, as time goes on, I think this one part of graffiti is kind of dwindling away, becoming less important as time passes. And that is graffiti legends. How much do they really matter nowadays? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments down below, but let me kind of throw a couple things out there, catch people up to speed, and then we can kind of delve into the topic a little bit. So, for those of you guys who don't know, there's different ranks in graffiti, right? You have, like, obviously got kings and legends, and kings you have to be an illegal graffiti artist in order to actually attain the title of king. Otherwise, if all you do is legal walls, you cannot be a king. But a legend isn't quite like that. In order to qualify as a legend, you have to change graffiti on a global scale, and you have to be known globally. Some people become legends because their style is so unique that they become renowned for that style, and people recognize it, and people globally try to go ahead and copy it. They globally influence graffiti's style. Some other people become legends because of things that they do, right? Places that they hit, for example. And if you're wondering about those old school graffiti artists and why they're legends, well, they're the ones who paved the way for us in graffiti. They're the ones who kind of created this whole entire thing we have going for us. And that's why a lot of those old school New York legends are legends. But once again, the key thing to note here is you have to be globally renowned, not regionally. You have to change the game globally in some way, and you don't have to do graffiti illegally. There's plenty of legal-only graffiti artists that are legends now. And this creates a little bit of an issue where social media makes it really easy to kind of reach people globally. You don't even really have to try. So now you have a bunch of internet graffiti artists that are claiming legend status, and what did they ever do? I mean, they have a social media that knows them globally, sure, but how did they affect the game globally? How did they permanently change graffiti? They didn't. And this brings me to the next part of the discussion, and that is, what are the benefits? What are the reasons for becoming a legend? In most cases, being a legend doesn't pay bills, it doesn't really get you fame, and very few of the people that are considered legends are actually making tons of money doing murals in galleries. Most of them maintaining a regular 9-to-5 job, getting paid minimum wage or less. Well, you see, graffiti's always been about respect. That was always like one of the major things about graffiti, right? You got up in order to get respect. You had dope work, which got you respect. Everything came back to being respected and becoming renowned for the work you put in and the quality of your work as well. And this meant that your name became exclusive to you. No one else can take your name. Perfect example here would be as if anybody started writing Cope 3, nobody would take that person seriously. But as time passes, the new school graffiti artists don't know the legends. They're not familiar with the people that came before them. And due to the amount of misinformation in graffiti and how hard it is to come by reliable information, especially when you're looking back in time to where a lot of older graffiti artists like to embellish details about stories and make things much larger than life and completely lie about certain events to make themselves seem like legends, you really get into these murky waters where you don't know what's true and what's not, who's not a legend and who is. It all becomes really twisted and messed up. So you can't expect a new school graffiti artist to even bother to try to figure out who legends are. You know, when I first started doing graffiti, I really wanted to become a graffiti legend. I mean, that was like one of the things where if I checked that box, I thought I would make it. And I think, you know, when you start graffiti and you're young, specifically young graffiti artists, I think we all go through that phase where we're so infatuated with graffiti that becoming a legend seems like the end-all be-all goal for a graffiti artist. But I noticed graffiti artists that start a little bit later in life, they don't really have that notion. They don't really care about that. And I think it's because they realize that becoming a graffiti legend is an extremely low and easy standard. That is not difficult at all. So I think these new school graffiti artists, like the people starting nowadays, are beginning to realize this. As graffiti becomes more informed and they learn more about fine art fundamentals and the elements of art, so on and so forth, and they realize how necessary all of that information is, their standard goes up. And it's already getting to a point where the standard, the informational standard for graffiti is rising above the standard to become a legend. And this is something that you don't really see in any other art form. I mean, in order to become as renowned as somebody like Leonardo da Vinci or any of those, you know, great masters like Van Gogh or any of those guys for that matter, you have to do an absurd amount of work, and that work has to be extreme quality. If you want to be considered to that esteem, to that level of art, then your skill and knowledge have to be in the top 1%. And in graffiti, this just isn't the case. Most graffiti artists in general, this includes graffiti legends, don't have much knowledge at all about the science of graffiti and how it functions. And as stated previously, the standard for the quality of graffiti is going up, and at this point it's higher than the actual requirements to become a legend in the first place. So I think new school graffiti artists are starting to become less impressed with graffiti legends. I mean, just to give you an example as to how people don't really respect legends the way they used to, being an old school New York graffiti legend was like the highest rank you could possibly get, because I mean, New York is where where everything pretty much started as far as the culture is concerned, and as far as evolving and growing and spreading worldwide. But now if you have an old school New York graffiti legend who tells you they're a legend, most people will blow it off and they don't care. That title doesn't hold any more weight, or it holds very little weight. And it's not entirely the new school's fault. Once again, with old school graffiti artists embellishing and flat out lying, it's hard to figure out who the major legends were back in the day. So let me tell you guys a story. My partner in graffiti, he went to New York one time and he ended up meeting up with this old school, graffiti artist. And this guy was selling him the world. He was like, dude, I'm a legend, right? I'm an old school New York graffiti artist. I'm a legend, so on and so forth. I'll mentor you, the whole 9 yards. Now mind you, me and my partner were already getting mentored by Demmer, who actually is an old school New York graffiti legend. So this dude comes over to the shop in order to mentor my partner, and Demmer's looking at the guy like, what? Everything this dude is saying is fake, phony, and completely not true. That is a lot of old school graffiti artists just sitting there embellishing stories because they know no one else is gonna check, because they know no one else is gonna be able to have the facts to prove them wrong. You see it in documentaries, and this is why I don't trust a lot of graffiti documentaries, because a lot of them have a ton of misinformation with people embellishing and lying blatantly about stories. So when you consider all those things, and you look at the benefits of graffiti artists, it seems like they pretty much don't have any benefits, and the skill and knowledge required to become a legend is pretty much bare minimum at best. And I think this is pretty much why we see a lot of new school graffiti artists not really care about old school legend. And this ironically is why they think everyone who's skilled at graffiti is a graffiti legend, because the bar to be a legend is super low. Let me know what you guys think about the topic in the comments down below, and if you want to learn more about graffiti, I got some ebooks I published. I gotta look, those things are up in the cards. I don't know what side the cards pop up on, forgive me, but if you find it and you're interested, you can go ahead and pick those up. Or you can subscribe to this incredible community. We got the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online. You can see those right up here, and more graffiti content down here. But I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching.